Welcome to Paup-up video from your friends at Supraliminal Games, Supraliminal Films, Supraliminal Entertainment in general. Thank you so much for joining us for this Paup-up video. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a returning Paup-up video fan, we have some things to discuss. So I want to just run through the format. I want to run through where we've been. I want to run through what you're looking forward to in this video as well as going forward. And I will try to keep it as brief as possible, which, if you know me, isn't going to be very brief at all. So, we have taken a break from pop-up video, mostly due to the pandemic. We have, if you watch our content, you know we're trying to stay as safe as we can. We're trying to follow our isolation guidelines as much as we can. We're not getting together if anybody feels kind of sick or ill. We have 2 new children in the fold. Congrats to Paul and Dan, of course, who now have 1-year-old. It's been that long. So, we've been trying to keep them safe. We've been trying to keep all of us safe and healthy as much as we can. So we've been keeping our gatherings to a minimum and trying to release content from a distance. But also, we really didn't want to step down the quality of these pop-up videos. So we wanted to make a conscious effort to make this as good as possible for all of you. So it's been a lot of kind of bashing our heads together of how to do it. And what was kind of the catalyst of all that was the new Historic Horizons that came out on Magic Arena. So what this did was create a digital card specific to Arena to actually make Arena Pauper its own separate format from simply Pauper with Arena available cards. So that interested us. If you've been following our content, thank you so much. And you'll know that we have been covering Arena Pauper since the beginning of Arena Pauper. We love the format. I love brewing. All of us do. It's so much fun. And this is kind of the Wild West of a format. It doesn't seem to be super duper popular yet. Mostly, I think, because Arena hasn't done any kind of big spotlight events for Arena Pauper. Same with Artisan and some of its other Arena-specific formats. But I am pumped about the fact that it's its own format now, as all of us are. So what we're trying to do is we're going to try to offer some of pop-up video through an Arena Pauper lens until things start to really stabilize in the world in a way where we're safe to get together and make videos again. So don't think we're done with Paper Pauper. We are certainly not. But for now, we're going to be focusing more on Arena Pauper because A, it's safer, and B, we're really interested to see what the heck is out there. This Historic Horizons drop was enormous. And as you know, if you've watched our Pauper Primers with Jared and I, every set brings something different to Arena Pauper than it does to Real Pauper because the Pauper pool is so much more vast than the Arena Pauper pool. So even a normal set, you have to go through and pick out and kind of get through every common to see what's really going to impact the format in an interesting way. So, what does that mean for this video? Well, we're going to do this the same basic format, except the deck tech portion is not going to be broken up into card type. It's just going to be one longer deck tech with everything together. We are also going to be able to benefit when we get into the games of being able to see both players' hands. Before, obviously, in paper, we can only show you one player's hand, and we focus on that deck. We're still going to do that. We're still going to focus on the deck, and it's going to be the Zombies deck for this video. We're going to focus on one deck primarily. You're going to see the games through the lens of that deck, but you're also going to be able to see the other opponent hand, and we'll be able to talk about that in the commentary, which I think is particularly exciting. Obviously, you get all the Arena frills and things. If you're a fan of it, great. If you're not, I understand that too. So we're going to kick it off to the deck tech portion right after this, and then we will get into the games just like before, and then finally we will conclude the whole thing with thoughts on how the entire process went down. So not very much change at all in terms of the format. It's obviously going to look different because of Arena and not paper, but I think that's going to offer a lot cleaner of a look, and I think that everybody hopefully should enjoy it. Of course, let us know down in the comments if you want to see this, if you don't want to see this, if this is a horrible idea and we should stop doing it immediately. You can't hurt our feelings. We want to bring you the content that you want to see here on the channel. So this is just something that's near and dear to our hearts. You can go back through our videos and see how many Arena Pauper videos we make. If you're here because of Arena Pauper, and I know a fair few of you are, let us know what decks you want to see. Let us know what brews are out there that interest you. I want to start to go through the stuff that has seen success that we've been working on, and we've been playing so much of this format that we want to bring to you some stuff and try to give you an idea of what you're going to see out there and how to play with it and against it. So without further ado, let's get into the deck tech. And we are back with the deck tech for this zombie deck. So we have quite a few cards here, all of which are very much focused on the central goal. And it has changed a little bit with the printing of Siege Zombie, but not all that much. First card we want to highlight is Davriel's Withering. Very cheap piece of interaction. Having spells on an odd mana cost is really important to the deck because you can see so much of the deck occurs on 2. And let's be honest, Gem Palm Polluter, that's a 2. We're never going to cast this thing for 6. We're always going to cycle it for the black cost. So you can see so much of this deck fires on 2 that having the odd mana costs, super important for turns 1, 3, and 5 to help you double or triple spell if possible. Or obviously turn 1, just cast a spell. Next is Dead Weight, very similar effect to Davriel's Withering. I haven't figured out the numbers of these yet. I'm just testing Davriel's Withering since the printing of the historic set for Pauper. Liliana's Steward, the 1-drop zombie that actually kind of does something for the deck other than when it dies, give a creature -1/-1, or make a treasure, which is the next closest choice in the deck list. Cemetery Recruitment, very key sorcery for this deck. It returns a target creature from your graveyard to your hand. Not very good for 2 mana as Raised Dead costs half that much. However, if the card we return is a zombie, we draw a card. So this gives us 2 for 1. Gives us a creature back and another card for 1 card. Cannot say how important that is enough in Pauper. Kenra Eternal, just our basher, right? He's going to come down on 2. He's going to attack. We don't care if he dies because we're probably going to be able to recur him with 8 recursion spells in the deck. And he has Afflict, so he can get through the last critical point of damage even if blocks occur. Lazotep Reaver is actually one I've bumped up with the printing of Siege Zombie. This guy comes in and amasses for 1, so we have a zombie army that it creates. So its ability to make tokens is really critical because it is 2 zombies in 1 card. So that is a huge boon for something like Siege Zombie that wants us to tap 3 creatures and for cycling our Gem Palm Polluter. Plague White is an unfortunate cut down in the deck. Another beater, much like Kenra Eternal, just not quite as good. Whenever it becomes blocked, each creature blocking gets -1/-1. So gang blocks become pretty bad against the Plague White, but eventually they are able to block it, and it's just kind of medium. Siege Zombie, however, is not medium. This card is awesome. It's a huge get for this zombie deck and something that I think will keep it very playable as Arena Pauper evolves. It's a 2/2 for 2 that lets you tap 3 untapped creatures you control. Each opponent loses 1 life. Such a huge get for this deck, being able to push through the last few points of damage or just ping for that extra couple when you really need it on turns you're not just kind of stuck with a messy board stall. It helps undo life gain. It keeps that deck in check. It really does a lot of versatile things in this particular deck, so really happy to have it as part of the team. One of the most powerful zombies outright in the deck, the White of Precinct 6. +1/+1 for each creature card in your opponent's graveyards. This guy is very big. He's the biggest zombie in the deck. He's usually comes down as a 3/3 or a 4/4. He is very cheap to cast and obviously can keep the opponents pressured and can compete with a green deck that's trying to go bigger because we have so much removal, right? We're running 8 pieces of removal in the main and we're happy to trade off our knuckleheads because we can get them back so many different ways. One of those removal spells, Grasp of Darkness. I've cut down on this because I want to mitigate the amount of 2s in the deck, but this is the most powerful removal spell we have. Black, which doesn't matter because we're on mono swamps. Target creature gets -4/-4 until end of turn at instant speed. Pretty nice. Lets us also hold up Gem Palm Polluter cycles at the same time, so it's really cool. And I've been talking about Polluter the whole time. Let's really dig into him. Pun intended. He is a 4/3 that cycles for black, and he costs 6 otherwise and is a zombie. Now, if you cycle him, you still get to draw a card because he does cycle legitimately. Also, you may have target player. You can pick yourself. I don't see the value in that, but you can lose life equal to the number of zombies on the battlefield. This is very important and something I did not realize way back when I built this deck and played against the mirror match. These were haymakers. These were huge spells, and some people do play a couple zombies or 2 for value. So having the Gem Palm Polluter being able to cycle equal to the number of zombies on the battlefield, not your battlefield, the battlefield, is a huge deal. So make sure that doesn't slip off your radar, because it definitely slipped off mine the first time that it came up. Finally, the only 3-drop in the deck, Ghoul Raiser, 2/2 for 3. When it enters the battlefield, return a zombie card at random from your graveyard to your hand. So this guy comes in and immediately gets a zombie back. So he's a 2/2 zombie that recurs a zombie. Now, it is at random, but if that's the case, it's usually not that big of a deal. The zombies in the deck, I've tried to curate the best ones we have on Arena Pauper, and I'm never sad to get back any zombie. Either way, this guy's coming back, getting back another creature, and you're going to be able to likely cast it in the later game, because odds are you're not going to cast him turn 3 unless you're trying to be really mana efficient. Maybe you traded off a creature early, or you activated the Liliana Steward. But that's a really nice little piece of interaction, is you can intentionally use the Steward, make them discard to get your Ghoul Raiser value on turn 3. So if you cast Steward on turn 1 or 2, you can just use it and then make the opponent discard a card, and then immediately Ghoul Raiser it back for, that way you're not losing out on your value there. So it's a really nice card in the deck. It does a lot of role-playing. It really helps. So be aware of Ghoul Raiser in your hand when you're choosing to block with your Lazotep Reaver or the Zombie Army token. Remember, the Army token goes away forever. The Lazotep Reaver can come back with something like a Ghoul Raiser, and then you can make a 2/2 Army. So there are a lot of little micro decisions. The final thing we need to talk about is the land base, which is relatively simple, but something worth talking about. I have tested Baron Moore in the deck, and it's just not good. A tap land is such a problem for this deck, and I know what you're thinking. Why not put in a Baron Moore or two? Because late game, you may be glutted and you're able to cycle and deal with the land that way. That is true. I elected to go for 18 land instead of like 20 with 2 Baron Moore, because so much of the deck has little micro pieces of card draw in it, right? Gempalm Polluter lets us cycle and draw a card. Cemetery Recruitment draws us a card. So there is hidden little bits of card advantage in the deck. And one of the reasons the deck, I think, is quite good is not only the synergies the deck has with zombie-related tribal cards, is because the deck actually can generate a little bit of card advantage. It doesn't gas out too hard. You can absolutely get flooded, but any deck can get flooded. So I've elected to deal with the flood by going down to 18 land instead of a slightly higher count with the Baron Moors, because I just was not impressed with the tap land. This deck is very mana hungry. It wants to cast something on 1 if possible. It definitely wants to cast something on 2. It 100% wants to cast something on 4. So if you're dropping a Baron Moore on turns 2 or 4, it can absolutely undo a game that you should win otherwise. So I just was not pleased with Baron Moore as a card. Other than that, there's no other cards that really jumped off my radar, colorless cards or anything. Our pips are pretty lean, but when we need double black, we need double black. Ghoul Raiser, Gempalm Polluter, and Grasp all require it. And if you don't have it the turn you need it, again, you can just lose a game on the spot. So it's not really worth putting in like a Desert to deal 1 damage or something like that. I just don't see the value in it. The shuffling, not very pertinent, so no real reason to run Evolving Wilds. We're not playing Unholy Heat or anything like that. So I don't see any value in the lands outside of just good old time-tested Swamp. So that is the deck. That is the rationale behind the deck. So let's see how it does. Alright, so we're getting into game 1 here, and we have my opening hand of 2 Swamps, 2 Liliana Steward, a Siege Zombie, a White of Precinct 6, which I will definitely say wrong at least several times, and Gempalm Polluter. A solid enough keep. It has the Siege Zombie, so if I get stonewalled by a bigger flyer, or she puts out a ninja that gets me once and can't attack, I don't have to worry about just throwing zombies all willy-nilly to death with the Siege Zombie. And the Gempalm Polluter obviously working well in tandem with the Siege Zombie, because they both just want a lot of critters on the battlefield. So it works pretty well. Sam's going to lead off with a Silver Raven here. And it looks like the debate is, does she go Winged Words, Fairy Guidemother, or Ninja on this turn? So it's a tough one. Pacifism, not the best play, considering it though. It's worth considering every card and ruling it out, because on here you're individual timer, so it's not that big of a deal. This is an individual battle, not a time. And even so, use your ropes. Don't be afraid to use your ropes. She definitely fancies herself the beatdown, and she takes the more aggressive line here, which I think is valid. This is an easy turn for me. I'm just going to commit a Siege Zombie, be nice and mana efficient, and go ahead and whap her for 1 with the Steward, trying to keep as much pressure on, so if I get close, I can close out the game with my Gem Palms and Siege Zombie. So that's my plan. So I'm okay with the game going a little bit longer if need be. And Sam here is going to go ahead and Ninja. Not a bad play here because she also gets to then follow up with Fairy Guidemother. Pretty nice. Could have went back to Silver Raven for the Scry, but it's just basically as valid. Minor value loss, but nothing huge. Still committing pressure, which is where her role definitely should be in the match. And I'm going to be nice and mana efficient, I do believe. First get in our attacks. No good blocks here for a 1/1, so she can either preserve 2 life or just kind of eat it. And I think she's pretty firmly made herself the beatdown with this line, so there's no reason for her to block here, and she doesn't. So I'm going to be nice and mana efficient, as I alluded to. White of Precinct 6 and Liliana Stewart, just lots and lots of zombies on the battlefield, so I can get as much value as possible for those Gem Palms in my hand. Sam, considering how she wants to lead into this next turn, plays an island. Looks like going to recommit Silver Raven here. And go ahead and get her Scry onto the bottom. Just going to do some checking of math and see what she can do. I get a good enough double block on the Ninja that it might hold her back. At this point, it's a tough consideration what I want to do if she does attack with that Ninja. It's basically the only thing I have to worry about here because the Fairy Godmother's getting me no matter what I do. And she looks like she's setting herself up to want to pacify something. It's just figuring out exactly what. The Siege Zombie is the biggest creature on the battlefield, but the white can get bigger if things go to blocks, and she decides to do shove with the Ninja now, and it's a no-brainer here. I can't block that with the Steward. Unfortunately, she gets to keep cards in her hand, which makes the Steward look worse from an ability standpoint, but from a zombies on the battlefield standpoint, it's not too bad. I did lead with land. I should have waited to cycle to not give that information away to Sam that I drew a land for turn. But minimal, but worth noting for sure. Another Siege Zombie here, not too bad, keeps pressure on. And now the question is, do I attack with the Siege Zombie? And then do I attack with any number of Liliana Stewards? The attack as it's set up now would not allow me to tap 3 creatures for the Siege Zombie's ability. I don't love the idea of a double block on the Liliana Stewart and only being able to take out 1 of her creatures. I think overall I'm okay with her trading 2 creatures for my 1 here. Because Sam's deck is a go wide flyers deck, so I know there's pump in the deck, but I would believe that if I were playing an unknown opponent as well, with this many small flyers, there's got to be some kind of pump effect here. So that's my thought process is I'd rather trade off 2, maybe draw a Ghoul Raiser, maybe draw the Cemetery Recruitment, and just be fine trading off the Siege Zombie for two resources of hers. But she elects to remain the beatdown and not take my zombie out, which is a reasonable consideration. Winged Words here, a dangerous one, could draw her into Land Fortify, and that would be the game. Instead, draws her into Unsummon and Ninja. Which another Ninja here is castable. Could also use the Fairy Guidemother to aggro the Ninja that's out, and it looks like the route she's taking, which again is the most aggressive route possible. So she's done a nice job with committing to the beatdown line here and giving me a lot to worry about. If she goes full in, this is 7 damage in the air here. She doesn't know I'm sitting on double Gem Palm Polluter, obviously, because that's going to be just 10 with the double cycles. So it's game over no matter what she does. And I get the Siege Zombie activation, so there's not much she can do. So trying to close the game out is probably the correct choice for her here. Draws a Plains, unfortunately, so she can't follow up with even like an Unsummon, but does get to use the Fairy Guidemother. So again, she's got the game here if I can't close it out this turn. But she doesn't know I'm sitting on the double Gem Palm Polluter, and it really illustrates the ridiculous power of this card in the deck. Being able to cycle, and now with her removal suite's pretty bad against me because it's a lot of keeping my creatures on the board, which means I still get all the trigger, or all the head count, if you will, from the Gem Palm Polluter. And as you can see, that just closes out the game fairly effectively. Very close one there. All these games obviously going to be close because Sam's trying to beat the crap out of me, and I am trying to stop her. And just like that, we're back for game 2. These arena games are quick, aren't they? So I have a hand that's a sketchy one. It's got a little bit of interaction, a little bit of pressure with the Kenra into Ghoul Raiser. It's all right. My hope is that Sam's hand's not super aggressive, but, I mean, that's kind of the nature of her deck. So she's going to scry 2 to the bottom, which is rare indeed. I'm just going to use my 1 piece of mana here. The negative is if she's playing the Valkyrie from Kaldheim, she could cast that. So that's a risk, but I'm not sure she's playing that card, so I'm just going to take the pressure off the table considering my hand's a little shabby in terms of speed. This is a very easy turn, simple Kenra Eternal. Now my hope is that she can't draw cards with the Eye Kite, which, as we can see from seeing her hand, she can't. She's got a guard approach, doesn't need to use it here. She's got pacifism if she wants to slow down the Kenra Eternal, which makes sense. Takes an attacker off the board for me, lets her continue to control the beatdown. So it makes sense. It's not a great hand for her, not a great hand for me, but we'll see who can make the most of their not great hands. Okay, so then the question becomes, do I cycle or do I use the Ghoul Raiser for no value? I think the cycling's just a clean choice. It draws me a card. I'm hoping to draw to more action. Obviously, a Liliana Steward here would be fantastic. Got a dead weight. I can use it. Don't know that she has the UC Guard approach in her hand, which is a fantastic counter for the dead weight. Nice and cheap. Taps down flyers if she runs into another opposing flyer deck, so it's a nice flexible option for her. Fairy Miscreant comes down and she gets me for 1. So it's very anemic right now, her board, but it's still good. So here I think it's the question of double cycle or Ghoul Raiser, and I think it's a pretty easy Ghoul Raiser, even though it's mana inefficient. Having the multiple Gempalm Polluters is really nice, and having the assumption that I will draw more zombies kind of makes sense. But this is land heavy for this deck. This deck only runs, as we saw in the deck tech, it only runs 18 land. Sam's going to go ahead and pacify my Ghoul Raiser, and again, continue to claim the beatdown, which she needs to do here. So I have Cycle Gempalm Polluter, which is an easy one. I want to try to draw, again, some kind of action here. And then the question is, do I cycle again? Do I cast Kenra Eternal? Do I hold up Grasp of Darkness? So I'm just going to go ahead and jam. She has no cards in hand, so she's living off the top. Drew a very nice one here with the Cloudkin Seer. This was painful because she gets the Eye Kite trigger. So that was a rough draw here. Can't cast the other Cloudkin Seer in her hand, but it's a nice smooth curve out for her because she gets to trigger Eye Kite again next turn with the Cloudkin Seer activation. So I get to offer a trade here for Kenra Eternal. I'm assuming she doesn't take it because she's pretty firmly ahead life total-wise, so there's no reason for her to block here. And in fact, she does not. She knows I have, or she doesn't know I have any Gempalm Polluters in hand. And again, I should have waited to play that land, giving a little bit of information about my draw steps. Another land is brutal. But I do get to kind of free roll Gempalm Polluter cycles here because I need to draw some kind of action. Another Ghoul Raiser is not a bad draw here. So the debate is, do I go for this now while she's tapped low and don't give her another draw step? I could hit her in the upkeep as well. So it really depends. I decided to go with, let's wait and see if she can draw a card before I decide between Eye Kite and Cloudkin Seer as the one to go. And obviously this makes the choice easy. We just go ahead and jam on Eye Kite. Could have waited for the trigger to go on the stack from the Cloudkin, but no real difference here in terms of doing it with the cast trigger on the stack. Still sitting on yet another Pacifism. And again, I think it's pretty free roll for her to do it here. She has the mana. She doesn't want to take the damage. It lets her continue her lead. I managed to close the gap a lot, but I've put 3 Gempalms in the yard. So I'm going to need to draw fairly well to keep up here. So this is a pretty easy turn. Ghoul Raiser back a Polluter. And then use the Steward and then cycle the Polluter and see what kind of action I get. And now I'm actually waiting to play the land like a smart Magic player would. And I'm going to go ahead and cycle. And right now it's a close one, but I have 3 damage. She's at 4. No way to get an additional damage in. So this next draw step is pivotal. She has enough damage to kill me in 2, and I top deck land, ergo, cannot win. So she's going to draw. So I drew half the land in my deck and well less than half the cards of my deck. So just bad draws, and it happens. I tried to make it as competitive as possible, but the pacifisms were enough to buy her the time she needed while she kept the beatdown going in the air. And here we go. Game 3. Looks like an easy keep for me. Some good 2-drops, some Ghoul Raisers to follow up, and a Gempalm to cycle, hopefully towards victory. Sam is working through a mulligan here. Going down to 6, never fun. Easy lead on Swamp for me. Nothing much to do here. Okay, we got a keeper. A fairly slow hand and ninja heavy. Alright, cool. So I'm going to cast the Kenra here. Siege Zombie is better in a long game than Kenra Eternals. Kenra Eternal, you want to just get it down and start letting it beat down, because even if she blocks with that afflict ability, she takes damage. So that's kind of nice here. Pretty easy. Crack in, get my damage on. She's not going to block, and I'm going to just commit a Siege Zombie to the battlefield here. A Grasp of Darkness if I need. It's not a bad draw. Really looking for a land here so I can get my Cycling and Ghoul Razor tack on. We'll see what happens here. Going with a Winged Words to maximize the amount of cards she can draw. Right now stuck on mono islands, but that's not a problem with only blue cards in the hand. Another Ghoul Razor is probably the worst draw in the deck for me at the moment, but this isn't a bad position for me to be in because I'm still getting my damage in. I get to cast yet another zombie to the battlefield if I want. Looks like I'm going to hold for a cycle to try to hit my land drop, which is also a reasonable line. It's going to be 2 free damage. It also allows me to hold up Grasp of Darkness if she draws cards, which she's going to do here. So probably want to Grasp in response if it's going to happen. That way she doesn't have 2 more bites at the You See a Guard Approach Apple. And it looks like I managed to get in some removal here. Again, no lands. So the question again remains, do I want to cycle or just commit another zombie? And I like committing a zombie here with no alternative play, like the Grasp last turn. I think that's a much cleaner line for me. So Sam gets to lead off. Plays her land first. Probably should have waited with all the card draw in hand, because I do like the idea of like Cloudkin into Winged Words potentially. It looks like that. Nope, she's going to go Cloudkin into Fairy Miscreant. Trying to make a board presence, which also makes a lot of sense here. Board full of 2/2s, willing to trade minimally Kenra Eternal because of the Afflict ability. I'm guaranteed to get in 1 damage, and I like that a lot, sitting on multiple Gem Palm Polluters. So the question is now, do I play a Ghoul Razor and go mana efficiency and lose value, or do I cycle a Gem Palm Polluter, lose out on a little bit of damage there? And I kind of like committing the 2/2 here. She's obviously playing creatures down onto the board as quickly as she can to try to keep up with what I'm doing. So that lets me know that I can start attacking. And that's kind of the sign I want. It also lets me activate Siege Zombie this turn, which is quite nice. So she's going to scry with her Silver Raven. So I'm guaranteed to get in another damage. Knocks her down to 7 with 4 zombies out. I have the game with double Gem Palm. So this is pretty much game over if I draw a land. It looks like she's going to go the route of trying to find more cards. So she's going to go for Ninja here. Let's see if she can find. She needs to find Fortify. Possibly she needs to find something. I mean, it's just hard here. She's so back-footed at this point. I managed to get down some early aggression and followed up with Siege Zombies. And again, she doesn't know about the Gem Palms, but that is my end game. Like, a pump spell is for her. Fortify, probably the candidate in this deck with the single white. And it's the biggest pump across the board for the least mana. And there it is, Fortify. So can't really do much here. End of turn, I get to just make her lose a life. Each opponent, technically, but there's only one in this game. I'm going to discard a Ninja, which makes a lot of sense. Kind of Ninja heavy, drew all 4 of them. Swamp comes down, and that's the game. All I have to do is just get my beats on and then cycle a Gem Palm, and that's pretty academic from here. There's nothing much going on that's too hard. She makes the block she needs to stay alive. And then I'm just going to cycle and kill her. So that's the games. Go Zombies. And there you have it. That is the matches for the Zombies versus the Blue-White Flying deck. So a couple things I want to unpack here that I didn't get to in the commentary. First and foremost, thank you all so much for watching the video. We really appreciate it. We're super happy to be bringing this product back on the channel. So let us know what you think about it. We really want to hear your candid thoughts. If you don't like it, tell us. If you like it, tell us. If there's things we should change, please let us know. You really can't hurt our feelings as long as you're being somewhat fact-based and can present a reasonable argument. No problem there. Not even an argument, just a logical series of ideas. Not just like, this thing sucks, don't do it anymore. Don't troll us if you don't mind. If you do, you do. We're going to ignore it, though. But if you actually want to constructively criticize the piece here that we have, the piece of content, we would love to critique it and have it made better. So feel free to let us know. getting into the match itself, I think that Sam did a really nice job of presenting the line that gave me the most pressure. I was able to mitigate it when I was able to, I think, reasonably, and be able to race when I could. It was funny when we were actually playing, this is a look behind the curtain, we were playing together, and she didn't even realize she had won game 2 because she was so frustrated with her draw being so glutted with pacifisms, which looked pretty shabby, but that game I hadn't drawn, that was game 2, I haven't drawn any siege zombies, I hadn't really gotten enough polluter action going on to be able to steal the game from her. So it was pretty funny that I wasn't even sure that she had the game there. And I was like, oh, no, you just attack me and win the game here. So it was a pretty interesting one. We were both so deeply looking into what we can do on a micro level to play a little bit better during the game that we weren't really as concerned with who was winning and who was losing. So that's pretty neat. And it shows you the level of dedication we have here for trying to present to you the best games we can so that you can see. And again, if you see anything like, oh, you should have done this, or this was a mistake here, this was a player error. Game 2, maybe I missed a point. I'm not really sure that I did in watching the games, but calling it commentary-wise is a little different because I'm also trying to keep everybody up to speed on what's going on. But I do think that the deck, my reflections on the deck itself outside of the games, it's pretty well tuned at the moment. I'm still not 100%. We didn't see any Plague Whites in the game, so I'm really interested to see if it still has a home, but I just don't know if there's a better 2-drop zombie. I'm not sure if Plague White should be dropped in favor of a 1-drop zombie. Maybe something like splitting, adding another Davriel's Withering, and adding in one of the creatures from Forgotten Realms that dies and becomes a treasure or gives a -1/-1. That might be worthwhile in games where mana's tighter, being able to get that mana that you really need. I'm just not sure how much this deck takes advantage of treasure tokens, but maybe just additional 1-drops would behoove the deck. But again, without seeing the Plague Whites here, I really can't make that call too easily, so I'll continue, of course, to test the deck. But overall, very pleased with how things synergized. Really happy with the adding of Davriel's Withering and more Deadweights and more Stewards to give me more interaction on turn 1 and those odd-numbered turns. I think the lands looked pretty good there. I think the land count of 18 really is the way to go, as I alluded to in the deck tech. I really think that that's the right thing. Just 18 swamps, no frills, no cutesy tricks. Again, I don't like the cards, even the one that can come into play tapped, the Witch's Cottage. I'm still not huge on it, because those critical turns where I think there's enough recursion. There's 8 pieces of recursion. I don't think you need to sneak in a Witch's Cottage there and potentially risk a tap land when this deck really isn't looking to play a ton of land anyway. So I just don't see the value in a Witch's Cottage. So that's my personal opinion. Let me know if you're playing something similar and you've been testing. I've seen a couple builds of zombies over the time of playing this deck, and I've been working on this deck for a while now. If you go back to our videos, you'll be able to see that. But I did see a deck that was a little bit slower and more like grindy zombie deck that looked really cool and really heavily leaned on the Gem Palm polluters. I don't know as though that deck has enough pressure to really do what it's doing, and I think this deck does struggle against life gain in the current build that it has, so I really want to see how that particular matchup goes. I think there's enough interaction here, but that's why I was thinking about the Plague White getting split into one more 1-drop zombie and another Withering, just so I have lots and lots of interaction. But I really would like to see how all of that plays out over the course of time. So let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know if you see any obvious holes in the deck list. I really looking forward to hearing what everybody has to say about it. And let us know your thoughts in general on Arena Pauper. I know it's generally under-supported, but it's just a blast to play. So if you want to get more reps in, definitely jump on our Discord. We have that, and I'm going to try my best to remember to put a link to the Discord in the description below. And if I haven't, leave a comment that, hey, dummy, you didn't put a Discord link in. And I really want to get more people in, because we'll go on there, we'll play games, we'll have fun, we'll test. We can do all kinds of cool things on Discord over there. So we like to keep that as a little melting pot of people who are thinking about Arena Pauper and sharing thoughts and ideas and concepts. So definitely hit us up over there if you haven't already. And we will be back for yet another Paup-up video from your friends at Supraliminal Games.